Josh, welcome back. It's great to have you on.
Thanks for having me again.
You're Assemblyman in California, and we have been talking to schools, we have been talking to advocate groups that are looking at social media and phones, and you guys are putting a law together to allow schools to ban phones. Can you tell us more about what you guys are doing about it?
So at the beginning of this year, I introduced the Phone Free Schools Act, which is AB 3216. And it's a pretty simple piece of legislation. It basically requires school districts across our state to take action on limiting the use of smartphones during the school day. And a lot of this motivation, I actually pushed for a similar policy when I was serving on my local school board. But a lot of this motivation is behind all of the new research that has come out in recent years that really tells us that when kids have access to smartphones in the classroom, they're more distracted. They get worse academic results, worse academic performance. There's actually an increase in bullying on school campuses. There's an increase in mental health concerns. And we think it's really important as a state that we do more to limit access to these devices during the school day.
How would this work? Is there any structure to it, or the school district is going to decide on their own?
So we've provided a lot of local control within the bill to allow districts to have these conversations in their communities on how best to implement this policy. There are going to be requirements that by, I believe it's July 1st, 2026, that you have to have a policy in place at your school to limit smartphones during the school day. But we're not overly prescriptive in how schools need to do that. I think for some schools, they may invest in yonder pouches where the student actually places a phone into a pouch for the entirety of the school day and doesn't have access to it. Other schools may decide that they just want to require their students to have their phones off and in their backpack. There are a number of different ways to implement it, but I think the important part is that we do this statewide.
And do you think other states would follow California?
I do. I think the research has just become so incredibly powerful. In fact, some other states are already starting to explore policies like this one. And when you look at the people that authored this legislation, myself, my joint authors, there's strong bipartisan support for this. We're Republicans, we're Democrats, but we all have one thing in common. We're all parents of kids that are currently being affected by the challenges that are created by smartphones. And we all feel very strongly that if our kids are going to succeed in school, then our state and our schools need to take action to limit these devices.
And what about your kids? You guys are proposing this legislature, and what's the reaction from your kids to it?
Kids don't always love it, right? The kids do not always love it. I've gotten some complaints from my own kids, but they actually attend a school that already does not allow them to have access to their phone during the school day. So they've kind of become used to this policy, even though they don't like it. In the conversations that I've had with students, some of them have actually expressed gratitude for this policy because these smartphones are so addicting. And they really are it's a social contagion issue where if one person's on it, you all want to be on it. And I think we're really giving students some relief here by taking everyone off their phones. There's no longer that social pressure for everyone to have a phone or to be on their phone or to be on social media at all times of the day.
And now, have you seen any benefits from your kids that they are not having access?
My kids personally, and also some of the principals that I've talked with that have implemented it at their schools, particularly at the middle and the high school level, everyone is reporting this incredible increase in social interaction amongst their peers. So when you're at lunch, instead of everyone being on their phone, they're actually engaging with each other one-on-one. They're having conversations. They're building relationships. There's been reports of fewer mental health referrals. There's been reports of better academic performance. We've actually seen this in other countries when they've implemented this policy as well. And so the possibilities and the benefits are really endless in terms of what we can see in our kids improving in that regard, and just getting them off of these screens at least for this part of the day.
Josh, do you have any other thoughts for our audience?
Well, I just, I'm really grateful for my colleagues in the legislature and for the governor for coming out and expressing strong support for this in concept. I think when you look at all of the research, in fact, there was a book written recently called The Anxious Generation, which really dives into the harms of smartphone use, particularly on young developing brains. When you look at it, it's really hard to deny that the most important thing we can do for our kids to help them academically, to help them with their mental health, particularly coming out of the pandemic, is to limit access to their smartphones during the school day. And I'm grateful for the strong bipartisan support that we've received for implementing this policy statewide. I look forward to the governor hopefully signing it in the next few weeks here.
Assemblyman Josh Hoover, it was great to have you on California Insider.
Thank you.